welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have BORKNAGAR. They have reissued their debut album. We're also going to chat about the 2019 album still in promotional cycle, True North, as well as what I'm told are some tour dates. So there is a lot to chat about today. The reissue of the debut album is going to be coming out on November 12th via Century Media Records. So everybody watching it on Twitch right now, that's twitch.tv/The Rock Metal Podcast. Album will be dropping on November 12th. For everybody who's tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, the album is out, available wherever you consume music, as well as in vinyl format we're going to chat about. So right now, I'm being joined by Øystein. Øystein, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great. Thank you for the support and everything. So let's do some chatting.
So the first one that I want to ask is reissuing the debut album. I'm just going to start with a basic question. The basic question is why? Take us through that.
Yeah, that's a good question, though. My initial plan was to just lock this album down. This was an album we originally released back in '96. On a pretty underground label back then, and at that time we didn't have much control over all the contractual things and rights and copyright and all that stuff. So this is an album that has been, I would say, heavily exploited by dodgy labels, by bootlegging, by all sorts of things. So I've spent almost 5 years now with some lawyers and stuff like that, muting the album, stopping it, and muting it from Spotify, YouTube, and all that stuff. It's something I just wanted to have some control over this album. I kind of understand that people appreciate the album and all that, but it's I didn't just wanted this album to become something that just wander astray in a sense, So initially I wanted to kind of just stop this album, all the illegal releases and all the illegal downloads and all that stuff, but basically just lock the door, so to speak, and give the keys to my kids, and they can do whatever they want with the album when I'm gone. But then on kind of, it's the debut album is certainly an album that has. I mean, almost every day I'm doing business regards to the band or writing music or talking to people, interviews or whatnot. This album always comes up in a sense. There hasn't been a day in my career without somebody asking about this album in some other or another way. So, kind of that's one thing of it. And on the other side, kind of Century Media, we have been long time partners with for since '96 or something. And they kind of, wanted to re-release this album, and I basically said no. It's my plan. I just want to lock this album down. I'm done with it. I don't want to do things. I don't want to look. I'm kind of basically a dude that wants to look forward, not backwards, in a sense. I mean, living is all about looking forward, not backwards. Of course, some exceptions, though, and in this case, we kind of did an exception, and they kind of got me onto the idea about doing a really proper re-release, a kind of worthy re-release, and also by now the stars was aligned in a sense that it's 20 years since we released the album, or 25 is it? I don't remember at this point. 25 probably. 96 it was original release, so it's probably 25. And that being said, and all they gave me the budget to do everything. I have a proper studio now by Mastering Grade Studio, and I kind of, my idea, if I wanted to re-release this album, I wanted to do is for real, a proper remastering, not a quasi remastering that everybody does, that just take a master and redo it kind of thing. But I wanted to do it in a proper way, in a sense that I felt comfortable with doing it in terms of an artistic point of view, but also for the fans, that if I pull something out there for people to buy, to spend their money on, I want them to spend money on something that has a value, not just a reprint or the fifth edition of the same album or something like that. So what we basically did, they kind of brought the idea to the table that we should do a proper release, a proper deluxe version of this album's 20 years jubileum and stuff. So we got the funds to actually dig deep into the archives of all my tapes that haven't been played for many years. Actually, I got hold of I have the original mass mix tape, DAT tape. So I had to get a DAT recorder and things like that, and some technical obstacles. But it was kind of interesting. Very interesting and kind of nostalgic trip into the early beginning of my career, in a sense, listening to old tapes, finding the old original mixes and all that stuff. So it's you can say that at least the first edition of the album is a very kind of I would say exclusive version. The first LP or CD is the original album. Everything is the same as before. I've just made a remaster of the original mix just to make it a little slightly what can I say? I haven't changed the sound at all, haven't done anything to change the vibe or anything like that, but open up a little bit just for the people, the fans, to get a little bit more intimate to the music, in a sense, to get the music a little bit more under the skin, because the previous mastering was done basically by me and Chris. We didn't know what we were doing back then, so it turned out like it did. But nowadays I have proper equipment how to do the job in a proper way, though. And on the second CD, we actually added a lot of bonus material, and that is pretty much. My idea wasn't really that this should be a musical or sonic or whatever awesomeness in a sense. Of course, I hope it sounds awesome in the sense that it's more kind of a musical historical document. I even included the very first riff I recorded for this band in my life on my probably father's cassette recorder back then. And we added some live recordings from the Grieghallen Studios done by me and the late drummer Eric, and also the bassist at that time, Infernus from Gorgoroth. So we kind of added some goodies as a bonus CD, a bonus LP on the LP version, which kind of, the idea was basically to give people insight in the process of the album, the making of the album, rather than making it a unique listening experience, because it's not really, because it's a lot of tape pieces, it's a lot of old tapes that have starting to deteriorate and stuff like that, and so there is some bugs and hiss and some noise going on the bonus material, but that's some of the charm. I mean, that's where we come from, and first and foremost, this was to kind of document the musical becoming of the band, so to speak. Yeah. Okay. So it's actually, I was when walking into this project in early summer this year, I was I'm gonna spend a couple of days doing this one, but it turned out I spent the whole summer, digging in material, pictures, revising material, and all those things, and of course a bunch of technical obstacles, because cassettes, who have a cassette player these days anymore, and things like that. So it was a lot of work, but I think it was rewarding, and to me this is the definitive release of the debut album, and it's the definitive projection, I would say, of the starting point of the band, in a sense. So for those who are into the band, has followed the band through the years, or even new fans, I think it will be an interesting listen. And
absolutely. Now, something
should check it out,
there,
definitely.
What you were going for, remastering the album, dropping or trying to stop illegal copies of the album, people, I guess, appreciating the album, appreciating it so much that they steal it. I guess my first question to all of that is, listening back to those tapes, what was that like for you? Did it take you back to recording it, or did it have a different feeling?
Oh yeah, no. I mean that's. I don't know if this is the same thing for everybody else. I don't. This is a personal thing, but for me, music always carries with it so much more than just music. It's memories. It's even smell. Sometimes it's the atmosphere. It's the, you know. So for me, diving back into this, it of course all the technical obstacles, one side of it, but I would say the glory of it was really to get a deep dive back into my youth in a sense. I could remember some of the mix versions we did. I had some rehearsals tapes. A lot of material, hours and hours. We couldn't possibly use it all, of course. But I was listening to half-done songs, and I can actually remember sometimes that, okay, yeah, I remember this day we kind of went out drinking after the rehearsal, and we just, finished off that riff in the middle of a song or something, things like that. And it kind of gives me I was kind of soaked in old memories in a good way, and it's emotional. It is because music has been such a big part of my life for so many years, if not almost all my life. So it was a really emotional ride in a positive sense, I would say. For me, music works like that. I mean, it's the same thing. I've always been a huge fan of Pink Floyd. That's my mothership in terms of music. I've always been. I probably got that from my father. He was also a big fan, and he brought me to my very first concert in Oslo, and that was Pink Floyd, the Division Bell tour, I remember. So it's it kind of amazes me how powerful music is. Revealing, old memories and pretty much pulling me back into my youth in a sense. So that was really cool. And again, doing this project, I wanted it to be very personal. I also done some liner notes on this album that is people, you can read most of the stories about, lineup changes and labels and whatnot on Wikipedia or things like that. But I tried to give, the buyer or listener or whatever, a more kind of personal point of view on things. There is a personal side of this. There is humans behind this. It's not just a band and a logo kind of thing. Of course, everybody knows that, but still, I wanted to give it a very kind of almost like an intimate thing going. I mean, it's kind of. I wanted to make the distance between me, who made the album back then, and the listener now a very close link in a sense. There is no big producer in between us, or a big high-end studio in between us, or whatnot, or label for that sake. This is what I've done. Everything on this album, except for some of the artwork, is done by me, myself, in my own studio here, and basically the same place where I wrote the material back in the day. A few hundred meters away, though, but still. So that was some of my master plan with this album. I wanted to give people something really genuine, not some easy. Of course, we could have done an easy way around. Just copy the album, just make some copies and revise the cover a little bit and sold it again, for the sixth time or whatever. But that's not the way I want to work, really. I want people to know that when I buy albums from us, it's filled up with heart, blood, and tears, so to speak.
Was it easy to bring it onto vinyl, or did that have some considerations with regard to, for example, vinyl's a physical medium that can only hold so much?
Yeah. Actually, we had to shorten down the bonus version, the LP, so to speak. I mean, the album comes in a CD deluxe version and a digipack with all the stuff and nice cover and all that. But the bonus CD is a bit longer though, and than the LP, because the LP couldn't hold like 70 minutes or 60 minutes of bonus material. That's in that case the sound would be crap. So we couldn't. We had to
Okay.
I had to
Very
make a
cool
difference
stuff. So for
there,
everybody
so to
listening
speak.
in today's show notes, which is going to be on the edited episodes if you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, we have BORKNAGAR.com as well as a couple music video links, Up North and Voices. The reissue of the debut album will be out November 12th via Century Media Records. And the only other thing, I guess, to chat about from here, Øystein, is the tour dates. Is that still happening? What can we talk about for the tour?
Yeah, let's hope so. We as with everybody these days in the music business, has been a nightmare in so many ways. I mean, we first planned this tour in 20, I think it was. We released the album in September 19, the Through North album, and we pretty much had 2020 lined up with the first starting off with the US tour. Together with Rotten Christ, then back to Europe doing a bunch of festivals, and then we had a European tour, headlining tour coming up later the year and stuff like that. But you know the story. The Corona came, and I think we were supposed to travel like the Corona, at least here in Norway, they locked down everything Thursday, I think it was, and the Tuesday after, we were supposed to head off or fly off to US to start a tour with Rotten Christ, but didn't happen. So there has been a lot of arms and legs the last year in order to postpone the tours and eventually cancel the tours and try to keep up with everything, because we wanted to fulfill this idea we had with True North. We wanted to tour the world with it, so to speak, and we were clinging on to the idea. So now we are kind of the Devastation of Nation tour. The Continental Concert guys have been for the third time now getting back on tracks with the tour. It's starting in April, I think, and to May, a month or something. I don't have the dates in front of me, so to speak, but roughly mid-April to mid-May. And we really hope that happens. I mean, we already lost quite some money on the previous cancellations and postpones and, working visas and whatnot. So this time I really hope that we will be able to pull it off. But, the world is strange these days. You never really know, I guess. I don't know, but I have a feeling this time will happen. We are back on track now. We are just now working on the visas again and trying to get everything going, so to speak. And it's already announced, and it should be on, I hope. And again, also, rest of the summer we are doing loads of festivals in Europe, and then we are heading out in the autumn with Moonspell and My Dying Bride festival tour in Europe in late summer, autumn 2022. Yeah. And then we have a couple of others, plans and stuff like that. So we try to, get back where we lost tracks due to the Corona situation. So we try to keep, cling on to the basic ideas that we had back then, and try to fulfill them now
so
in 2022.
An exciting year for BORKNAGAR. So everybody listening in, you can head over to BORKNAGAR.com for all of those updates to stay tuned. Debut album reissue via Century Media Records, dropping November 12th, available wherever you consume music, including vinyl release. The 11th studio album, True North, also available wherever it is that you consume music, and some tour dates for a city, hopefully near you. Øystein, that concludes all of my questions. Thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.